is number 3 on your trig proof packet 2. So again, anytime you're doing a proof, pick one side. I'm going to choose the left side. So you rewrite it showing which side you picked. Now, I don't see any trig identities. The main reason I know there isn't one is because I have no squareds. But I am dealing with a fraction, actually 2 fractions. I'm trying to add a fraction and a fraction. Well, to add fractions, we know we only want one fraction when we're done. So to add fractions, we get a common denominator. So this has a denominator of 1 minus cosine. This has a denominator of sine. So this one needs a denominator of sine, so I'm going to times it by sine over sine. This one needs 1 minus cosine, so I'm going to times it by 1 minus cosine. So again, all I'm doing is getting a common denominator. So when I do that, I get sine times sine. Well, that's sine squared of x over, I'm going to just leave this out for now. And the reason I know I'm going to leave it out and why I'm choosing to is because in the end, I want sine on bottom. So I'm not going to factor it in just to take it back out. And then I'm going to get plus, okay, we're going to FOIL this. 1 plus 1 is 1, or 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times cosine is negative cosine. Cosine times 1 is positive cosine. Negative times positive is a negative cosine squared of x. All over sine of x, 1 minus cosine of x. So I just got common denominators. Now that I have the common denominator, I can combine them. So I'm going to kind of do a couple steps in once, which you can do. We know these are going to cancel out. So I'm going to cross them. Then I'm going to get sine squared. I have the same denominator, so I can add them. Plus 1 minus cosine squared x. All over sine of x, 1 minus cosine of x. Now, again, this is where a lot of people get stuck, and they're like, oh, but I can rewrite this because I have sine squared and cosine squared, that's 1. It's not, because it's 1 minus cosine squared. Remember, your identity is sine plus cosine squared. Sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So that doesn't work. Sine squared x plus 1, that's not an identity. But 1 minus cosine squared is, and I could change it to sine squared if I wanted to. Or you can look at the top and say I want to in cosine and make this in terms of cosine. Whatever's easiest. I'm going to go ahead and just rewrite this as sine for the time being. This is equal to sine squared. So then I'm going to get sine squared x plus sine squared x over sine of x, 1 minus cosine of x. Then you get sine squared plus sine squared is 2 sine squared. Over that. Okay. These will end up canceling out, and I'll get 2 sine of x over 1 minus cosine of x. Oh, problem. I did not get where I wanted. This is where a lot of people go, and they're like, shoot, I give up. But notice, everything was dandy until we got to this step here. What I ended up doing was canceling out my sign, but I wanted to leave my sign. So we can just cross this part out. We don't have to start completely over because it was all good and dandy till we got here. So let's restart and look at that spot. And the reason I'm doing this is because this is what I see you guys do, and then you get frustrated and give up. But just go back and say, okay, where did it start going wrong? I didn't want to cancel out that sign, so this was the step that I screwed that up in. So instead of changing this to sine, we should have probably changed the sine to cosine, because that's what we wanted. So instead, I'm going to change sine squared to 1 minus cosine squared x And then I have plus 1 minus cosine squared x. And it's all over sine of x, 1 minus cosine of x. So again, if you get somewhere where you're not wanting to, that doesn't mean everything you have done is worthless. It just means I know I'm not going to want to do this end part. So then look from here. So again, all I did to go from here is I changed sine squared to 1 minus cosine squared because I know I'm going to want cosine. So now let's try this. Simplify. 1 plus 1 is 2. I have 2 of these, so minus 2 cosine squared x. Okay? Then I get sine of x, 1 minus cosine of x. Then I can factor out a 2, so I get 1 minus cosine squared of x. Ah, I'm closer. I have my 2 that I needed, and I have my sine of x that I need. But these don't cross out. But notice this is a difference of squares. So then I could do 1 minus cosine of x, 1 plus cosine of x. And it's all over sine of x, 1 minus cosine of x. Hey, my 1 minus cosines are going to cancel out, and I end up with what I needed. 2, 1 plus cosine of x over sine of x. That's where I wanted to be. So again, the whole purpose of me showing you this was that you could see, all right, even though I got something else, which wasn't wrong, but it wasn't what I wanted, I can still just go from halfway through. So again, sometimes you'll do stuff that doesn't help you at all, hence this. But it does tell you, okay, that didn't work. Let's see where I started going wrong. So yes, you will make mistakes in these, but it will be good for the long run. So that is how you do number 3.